There is a kind of silence that only the early hours know. A silence that isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. When the world sleeps and you awaken between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, it's not just your body stirring. It's your soul whispering, and you feel it. Deep down, you feel it, as if something tired of waiting chose that exact moment to make itself heard. Have you ever stopped to ask why? You stare at the ceiling. Turn to your side. Take a deep breath. Try to convince your body to fall asleep again. But what exactly is trying to wake up inside you? What if this insomnia isn't the problem, but the portal? What if what you call a sleep disorder is actually a calling? That time, between the darkness of the night and the first light of day, is more than a coincidence. It's a sacred interval, a gap between what you pretend and what you feel. It's in that emptiness, where everything seems quiet, that the unconscious begins to speak. And it speaks loudly, even in silence. The body wakes, but what truly awakens is the signal. An internal alarm, a vibrational reminder that something is out of alignment. Bruce Lipton says the body is the hardware running the software of beliefs. And even while sleeping, those beliefs keep operating. But at that hour, the system glitches. And that glitch is precious. Because in it, the truth escapes. It's in that space the body tries to signal what the mind keeps silencing. You feel tightness in your chest, a light but persistent unease, as if the air is denser, as if the silence has weight. In traditional Chinese medicine, this time is linked to the lungs, the organ of sadness, repression, the unspoken. Have you noticed how repressed pain hides in the body? How the lack of purpose weighs on your shoulders even without words? And what if that sadness isn't weakness, but a reminder, an urgent plea to be heard? Gregg Braden shows us that the heart is the true electromagnetic center of the human being. When the mind and heart are out of sync, the body reacts. And waking between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning may be just that, a misalignment between what you feel and what you live. An incoherence between what your soul desires and what your mind endures. Have you ever considered that this time, this repeated awakening, might be the only moment your soul can reach you? The only window where it can whisper, "Wake up. Are you still there?" And what if, instead of resisting, you listened? Because the night doesn't lie. It reveals. And what it reveals may hurt, yes. But it can also heal. If this content spoke to you, if in some way it touched a part of you you didn't even know needed to hear it, then consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. It helps this message reach more people who, like you, are waking in silence, in the middle of the night. Back in the heart of the night, notice how the silence breathes with you. It doesn't want immediate answers, it wants presence. Because what's waking you isn't the noise of the world, it's the call of the soul. The energetic block disguised as silent insomnia. Sometimes, what seems like just a break in your sleep is actually a crack in your energy field. You wake, but not fully. Your body stirs, yes. But inside, there's a hum. Something pulses, as if your very vibration is out of place. And it's in that in-between, between exhaustion and lucidity, that the soul manifests. Waking repeatedly between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning isn't a biological accident. It's an energetic interruption, a field trying to reorganize itself. The mind, still asleep, wanders through dreams. But the heart already knows. It knows there's something that can no longer be pushed to the next day. It knows that delayed emotion, that subtle discomfort, that emptiness you keep ignoring, all of them build energy. And that energy needs to be released somewhere. And it comes out like this, in silence, in the night, at that exact hour when everything is quiet. Except you, because there's a discomfort that no blanket or new sleeping position can fix. There's a truth wanting to emerge, and the body, always faithful to its subtle biology, wakes as if to say, "Are you ready to listen now?" The invisible mistake happens when this awakening is treated as an annoyance, as something to be fought, avoided, ignored. But what if it's the opposite? What if this moment is the opportunity to access a part of yourself that can only speak when the world goes silent? What if, deep down, this discomfort is a chance? The mind likes to solve problems, but some pains aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be acknowledged, and maybe that's what the night silence is trying to show you. That there's something inside you asking for passage, and as long as you resist, it will keep coming. Always between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, always in that space where there's no possible distraction. What wakes you isn't the noise of the world, it's the call of the soul. And it comes gently, yet persistently. Because there are blockages that don't scream, they whisper, and the night hears everything. Inherited beliefs that program the body for conflict. Waking at this specific time, between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, might seem like a glitch. A minor sleep dysfunction, a random restlessness. But what if this glitch is actually a leak? A leak from the unconscious. Bruce Lipton states that 95% of the time, we're operating on autopilot, and what drives that autopilot isn't the present. It's memories, it's beliefs, emotional inheritances you don't even realize you carry, but that live inside you. How many of these beliefs were truly yours? How many did you simply absorb? From your environment, your family, unspoken words from childhood. And all of them are still there, acting like a hidden script, silent but powerful. And during the day, you manage to act it out. But at night, the unconscious takes the stage, and that's when the body speaks. During sleep, the mind relaxes, but the body works. It tries to process, release, restore balance. And when something doesn't fit, it interrupts. It wakes you up. Not to punish you, but to show you. To show you there's a program running in the background. A program based on fear, scarcity, abandonment, and it no longer matches the person you're becoming. That's where conflict arises. The soul wants to expand, but the body is still conditioned to survive. Consciousness wants to evolve, but the unconscious fears repeating the past. This friction creates inner noise. And the noise becomes a symptom, and the symptom manifests as waking, always in that same interval, always with that same whisper. The body isn't malfunctioning, it's processing. Every night it tries to release what no longer serves you, but it needs you to be present. Because this awakening isn't just physical, it's symbolic. It's the exposed fracture between what you inherited and what you choose to become. And recognizing that is already part of the healing. You're not broken. You're being called to look inward and ask, whose pain am I carrying? Where does this fear that wakes me come from? And most importantly, how long will I keep living according to a script I didn't write? The paradox of spiritual awakening. Why does it hurt? Waking in the middle of the night may seem, at first glance, like a disturbance. But maybe what's happening isn't just a physical awakening. Maybe what's repeating, night after night, is the most literal expression of what we call a spiritual awakening. And here lies the paradox. Awakening hurts. It hurts because it involves rupture. It hurts because part of who you were must die so another can be born. And this process, as subtle as it may seem, is deeply visceral. It's transition. It's vibrational mutation. It's as if every cell feels something is shifting, not to disorganize, but to reorganize. And the body, always so honest, responds. It registers the change. It records the clash between the old and the new. Waking at this time becomes, then, a living metaphor, an exact reflection of what's happening on deeper levels. Between sleep and wakefulness, between unconsciousness and presence, between pain and clarity. It's in that gap, small but immense, that you find yourself. And what you feel there isn't just fatigue, it's transformation. The anxiety pressing your chest, the emptiness invading your stomach, the lump in your throat. None of these are signs that something is wrong. They're signals of something new trying to emerge. It's the discomfort of truth, finding space. Because when the soul grows, the old skin tightens. And that hurts. But it also awakens. This pain, as hard as it may be, is a passage. And if you look closely, you'll notice it carries intelligence. It points to what needs to be seen, what needs to be felt, what needs to be left behind. And that takes courage, because it's not always easy to let go of the familiar, even when it no longer makes sense. Spiritual awakening isn't a sudden enlightenment, it's a process. And many times, it begins in the silence of the night, in the restless body, in the thought that persists, in the heart that beats harder. That's where everything begins to change. Even if, on the outside, nothing seems different, because what changes first is inside. And if you feel this path resonates with you, and you want to go a little deeper with content I don't share publicly here, there is a members-only area of the channel, a more reserved, intimate space where we walk this journey together. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. But only join if it truly resonates with you. Listen closely to what silence reveals. There are moments when silence says more than any thought. And it's precisely during this subtle hour of the night that it approaches with an almost invisible yet completely real force. It doesn't demand answers. It doesn't impose urgency. It simply stands there, making space for you to hear what got lost in the noise of the day. The awakened body becomes sensitive. The breath slows. Your hands instinctively reach for your chest. It's as if, without realizing it, you're trying to find yourself. And in that simple gesture, hands over heart, something organizes, something aligns, because there's a kind of listening only the body knows, a listening that bypasses the mind, a listening that happens in the feeling. The night, with its stretched time, is the perfect setting for this reconnection. Breathing deeply in that moment isn't just a physiological act. It's a reunion. With each inhale, you anchor. With each exhale, you release. And in the midst of that silent flow, a question arises. A question not from the mind, but from the soul. What am I avoiding feeling? It's not about finding an answer, but allowing the question to echo. Because it's in the space between stimulus and response where consciousness lives. And that consciousness is the beginning of healing. Not to fall back asleep, but to awaken within. Not to flee insomnia, but to embrace what it carries. Maybe it's the first time you hear something that's been trying to speak for a long time. Maybe it's just a sensation, a memory, an intuition. But it comes. It always comes. And when you allow yourself to listen without judgment, without trying to understand, just to be, something changes. Not outside, but inside. And that change, even if imperceptible, is everything. Because silence, when welcomed, becomes direction. The early hours as the womb of the soul. There's something deeply symbolic about that interval between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a moment suspended in time, where the world seems to retreat, where sounds fade, and everything becomes clearer on the inside. In that dense and almost sacred silence, there exists an invisible space. A space that holds, that nurtures, that transforms. A vibrational womb. It's as if the soul, at that hour, withdraws to be reborn. Imagine this moment not as an interruption, but as a return. A return to the beginning, to the origin, to the point where everything was still a possibility. The night, in this sense, isn't just darkness. It's gestation. It's the time when the soul asks, in a low but firm voice, "Are you still aligned with what you came here to do?" And this question doesn't come from the mind. It comes from an older, more essential place. It arrives without words, but with weight. A sweet, deep weight. As if every cell in your body knew that something is being created there. Something that won't reveal itself in haste. Because true awakening requires ripening. And to ripen is sometimes to remain in silence. While the world sleeps, you are called to dive inward, to let old layers dissolve, to allow new sensations to take shape. Because the womb of the night not only nurtures the new, it dissolves what no longer serves. And that can be uncomfortable. It can be lonely. But it's in that emptiness that the real takes form. Waking at this hour is, then, an opportunity for rebirth. Not the kind that demands fireworks or dramatic transformation, but a subtle, intimate, silent rebirth. Each night you have the chance to remember who you are, to remember why you're here, and to ask yourself with honesty, what within me needs to die, so I can finally be born, silencing the symptom without listening to the cause. There's an almost automatic impulse within us to eliminate discomfort, to numb the pain, to disguise the unease. And with waking between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, it's no different. The mind quickly seeks explanations. Stress, fatigue, accumulated worries. The body tries to go back to sleep, and the soul watches in silence. Because what you call a symptom might just be the messenger. There's a massive difference between treating the effect and welcoming the cause, between suppressing the signal and deciphering the message. And when you wake at this time, night after night, maybe it's not stress asking for attention. Maybe it's your soul trying to reach you, and every attempt to silence that calling with distractions, medications, or rationalizations is another step in the wrong direction. Because the symptom is not the enemy, it's the messenger. It's the reflection of what common language can't express, and it shows up when it can no longer be ignored, when what's screaming inside no longer fits in the body, and then the awakening comes. Not as punishment, but as a sign. Trying to shut down this process is like turning off the alarm without putting out the fire. It's like closing your eyes to a truth that insists on shining. And that truth is simple. Your body feels everything. It carries memories. It stores emotions. It expresses what the mind can no longer hold. And when it speaks, it must be heard. This deep silence of the early morning isn't meant to be filled. It's meant to be perceived. It's the space where the soul finally finds a window to manifest. And if you cover it with justifications, you miss the opportunity. The opportunity to know yourself on a level only silence can reveal. The opportunity to stop running from what has always been there. Because while you insist on treating the symptom as the problem, you ignore the calling it carries. And that calling doesn't go away. It only transforms into chronic fatigue, into vague sadness, into subtle disconnection. Until one day, you stop, you breathe, and you realize it was never about the sleep. It was about the listening, resonance between intention and vibration. There's a delicate point in the inner journey where wanting is no longer enough, where intention, no matter how noble, can't sustain change if it isn't in tune with the vibration that supports it. Gregg Braden speaks about coherence between heart and brain as the foundation of manifestation. And it's in that alignment, invisible but palpable, where true strength lives. Waking between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning might be a reminder of this misalignment. A whisper from the universe saying, you're trying to create a reality that doesn't resonate with who you truly are. And that gap between what you want and what you feel creates noise. Internal noise, which the body translates into restlessness, into wakefulness, into insomnia. It's not about a lack of effort, nor about unworthiness. It's about frequency, emotional presence, vibrational truth, because the universe doesn't respond to what you claim. It responds to what you are. And being requires honesty. It requires facing what hurts, what blocks, what hasn't healed yet. Because that's where vibration is formed. That's where it emanates from. When there's coherence, there's flow. When there's not, there's resistance. And resistance shows up in subtle forms, in recurring signs, in silent nights where the soul insists on calling. Because while the intention says, I want to change, the vibration often whispers, I'm still afraid. And the universe hears the whisper. Reprogramming the subconscious is possible, but it doesn't happen with repeated affirmations alone. It happens when emotion aligns with truth, when you truly feel what you say, when your energy supports what your words promise. And that process takes courage, because inner truth, when embraced, changes everything. Spiritual awakening starts in the body. And the body, faithful to its nature, wakes up when the internal vibration needs to be adjusted. Not as punishment, but as an invitation. An invitation to reevaluate, to listen, to realign. And maybe this repeated timing, this nightly vigil, isn't a glitch, but a reminder. A reminder that you already are what you're searching for. You just need to vibrate with authenticity, waking up to what's asleep inside you. There comes a moment when awakening is no longer a shock. It becomes a calling understood. Waking between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning frequently isn't a coincidence, nor a punishment. It's a code. A deep language of the soul speaking with your biology. And when you listen with your heart, you begin to realize it's not insomnia, it's revelation. Bruce Lipton teaches that biology follows beliefs, and the body silently translates everything you haven't yet said in words. Everything you repress, everything you pretend not to feel, the body manifests. And this awakening might be exactly that. The silent expression of a truth that refuses to be silenced any longer. Because the soul doesn't need to shout, it just needs space. Joe Vitale adds, the law of attraction doesn't respond to what you think you want, but to the vibration you actually emit. And that vibration is often full of subtle contradictions, of intentions that don't match feelings, of desires that don't match actions. And it's in that misalignment that the universe responds, precisely and honestly. Your biological clock might be synced with your spiritual clock. And every awakening in this time frame is a chance for reunion, a chance to look more bravely at what you've tried to ignore, not to judge it, but to embrace it. Because there's no healing without presence, and there's no presence without truth. This hour is not your enemy. It's your compass. It's the exact point where the veil between the visible and invisible becomes thin, where the noise of the world fades, and what remains is just you, with your memories, your fears, your essence. And in that essence, there is an invitation. Stop running. Start listening. And finally, remember, because sometimes what wakes you up is not the discomfort, it's the soul gently yet firmly saying, it's time. Time to stop denying your sensitivity. Time to accept your vibration. Time to live in accordance with what pulses, not with what others expect from you. And that calling, no matter how quiet, won't stop. If this touched you in any way, write something below. It can be a word, a sentence, a feeling. Sometimes what you've been living in silence is exactly what someone else needs to read, just to know they're not alone.